Hablando de los nombres, speaking of names, es la Hora Cultural, culture time. As we go through our Spanish studies this year, we will not only be learning about the Spanish language, but also about the culture of other Spanish-speaking countries. Remember, this is similar to things we've done in the past. Last year, we focused on Argentina, and before you studied countries like Mexico and España. This year for 5th grade, our nation of focus is going to be Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a Spanish-speaking island nation that's technically an American territory. As an island, it of course is surrounded by beautiful beaches, but it's also known for its vibrant and vast rainforest, as well as its rich history and delicious food. Seriously, guys, this food is really, really good. So, with that in mind, let's get started on our first cultural lesson, and that's all about los nombres, names. Wait a second. How can this be a cultural name about names? What could be so different about names between maybe our culture and that of a Spanish-speaking country? Well, let's see. Okay, first, if he were to ask her, ¿Cómo te llamas? She would reply back with, Me llamo Catalina Sandino Moreno. Sandino Moreno? 2 last names? All right, that is a little different. Why are there 2 last names? You might have noticed Latin names are a little bit longer. Now that's because both sides of the family are represented. So in this example, Sandino comes from her father's side and Moreno comes from her mother's side. ¿Qué? What? Okay, let's back up and look at this at a slightly different angle. First of all, the word apellido means last name or surname in English. So here we have a picture of one of our maestras, Señora Cortés, one of our teachers, Mrs. Cortés. What would her apellido mean? What would her apellido be? In this case, Cortés. Her last name, apellido, is Cortés. And that's it, right? Not quite. In the Spanish-speaking world, it's common to have 2 last names, doble apellido. So her full name is actually Mónica Cortés Méndez. She has 2 doble apellido, double last names. 1, 2. Cortés comes from her father's side, and Méndez comes from her mother's side. When you combine, you get her full name, Mónica Cortés Méndez. Oftentimes, when people come to the U.S., they feel strange about having 2 last names. So sometimes people shorten it and just include their dad's last name. But I think it's awesome to have both. And hopefully, after learning a little bit more about it, you will too. ¿Me están siguiendo? Are you following me? Okay, so Latin last names usually are doubled, doble apellido. And that's because both sides of the family are represented. Got it. Now, what happens with naming when 2 people have a baby? We're going to take a look at our next real-life example of the Colombian novelist Gabriel García Márquez and his wife Mercedes Barcha Pardo. Now, when they met and married, they had a son whom they named Rodrigo García Barcha. Remember, both sides of the family represented in the last names. That's why there's 2. So do you see how the first of the last names comes from the dad's side, in this case Garcia, and the second last name comes from the mom's side, in this case Barcha. It's believed that shortening to just having dad's last name leaves out mom's side of the family, and that's why they lengthen it to include both. By the way, this whole using 2 last names, that's a European tradition, and the Spaniards brought that over to the Americas. This practice still continues to this day in countries like Mexico, El Salvador, Colombia, and Venezuela. Hagan clic a la próxima diapositiva para ver cuáles serían tus nombres si siguieran esta tradición.